Hello, my name is Orla Cullen, and in this video our SAP Analytics Cloud product experts will demonstrate the main features in our Q4 2021 release. Feel free to jump straight to the features you're interested in using the timestamps in the description below. We also recommend you check out our webinar on the top 5 features, which include best practice performance tips for story designers, Analytics Catalog on mobile iOS app, Microsoft Office add-in for SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, new planning area for data entry, and data analyzer access from the side navigation bar. And with that being said, let's dive right in and hear from our SAP Analytics Cloud product experts.
Hi, my name is Jeanne Bégonnet, and I'm really happy to be with you today to present you some highlights about our next deliveries planned in Q4 for the Microsoft add-in integrated in SAP Analytics Cloud, named SAP Analytics Cloud Add-in for Microsoft Office. As you remember, you can use this add-in on Excel Online as an Excel desktop version because the add-in is built on top of Office 365. Let's go now deeper in the topic. First, of course, I need to present you this legal disclaimer because we will talk about planned features. The planned first improvement in Q4 will be part of the member selector. What is the member selector? So the member selector is the menu where you can select the member of your dimension. Today, you can search for a specific member. You can also search in different hierarchy or on flat list. But we want to add more flexibility in this menu. And this what is planned and what you can see here on my screen, because we would like to provide to the user more capability to select the members based on is placed on the hierarchies. And this will give you more flexibility and give you more agility as well when you have new members added in the hierarchy. Of course, if you select member and children, when you will add new child in the hierarchy, this new child will be also selected as part of your initial selection. The next topic is also really important for planner. It's about the fact to be able to keep the Excel reference formula directly in our grid. So this means that, as you can see here, we plan to add the capability to keep the link to an external formula, an external cell, so a cell containing an Excel formula, or directly creating a new formula directly in the cell and keep it when you refresh your report. We think that this is really useful, especially for planning scenarios to input or write back data to SAC. Next delivery has been already done on the market since early October. You are able to connect to your Data Warehouse Cloud system when you have declared it as a live connection, live source in SAP Analytics Cloud. Now, from Excel, you select your Data Warehouse Cloud system, you select the space that you have right on it, and from the space you retrieve all the data sets, and then you can start and create your own analysis in Excel and retrieving all your Data Warehouse Cloud data. Next one is the support for keyboard shortcuts. So today, when you want to process data or to use a planning action, you have to go to the ribbon, as you can see here, and you have to use these menus. Now we want to add more flexibility, benefiting from Excel capabilities, and then the first one will be the capability to use shortcuts to process data. And then, of course, as soon as you will click on and use your keyboard shortcuts, the data will be processed exactly in the same way as you were doing before, using the ribbon menus. Next delivery, it's also to give you more flexibility when you want to filter data on your report, because here you will be able to expand directly or collapse your report on a specific hierarchy level. Of course, this is only available when you have a hierarchy on a dimension, and then you will be able to select from the dimension itself to which level you want to expand it or to collapse it. And then this filter will be automatically applied on the grid that you have in your Excel here. Next option that we want to create is the option to remove the empty or zero rows or columns from your report. This will help you to, I would say, change the layout of your report, hiding or removing directly rows or columns when they do not contain any data. That's all for the Q4 planned delivery with the add-in in Office environment on top of Excel 365. I hope you have enjoyed the presentation, and I'm really excited to show you the future when they will be available on the market. Let's talk soon then. Bye.
Available in Q4 is customer-controlled encryption keys for SAP Analytics Cloud, which includes bring your own key scenarios. Analytics Cloud now offers integration with SAP's Data Custodian Key Management Service, ensuring a single control plane can be used to manage encryption keys for all of your SAP applications, including Analytics Cloud. This allows customers to control their own keys for their private edition tenants of SAP Analytics Cloud with their Data Custodian Key Management Service. Data Custodian Key Management Services provides independent and secure key management for all key lifecycle operations, giving customers full control of their encryption keys and processes. Data center availability. SAP Analytics Cloud is now available on Microsoft Azure in Europe. Customers now have more choices in their data center locations and their hyperscaler platforms.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna and I'm a product expert for SAC. Today I will be going over SAC's catalog card customization feature and show a quick demo of it. It is now possible to customize the layout of catalog cards with more tabs and fields, in addition to descriptions, which users can fill out when creating catalog cards in SAP Analytics Cloud. And the overall text editing experience was also improved. So now users can include metadata beyond the overview description. This can provide more context to the analytics for increased trust in the content presented. So now let's see the demo. Here I'm logged in as administrator. I can go to System Administration page and select Catalog. Here I can edit catalog cards in the dialog editor. In the editor we can see the current card layout with all available tabs. We have specified purpose and data use tabs before. Now let's go ahead and add a new tab, Target Audience. Click Save, and now Target Audience is one of the available tabs for catalog metadata. Now let's go to Catalog. When I open one of the cards here, I can see all the context that was provided with this content. Finance Data Report here has an overview and purpose tabs already defined. Let's go to the Edit view to add another tab. We can see the list of possible tabs to add. Let's pick the target audience one. Here we can now provide a description of the target audience for this report. The text editing experience was also enhanced. For example, here we can change colors, make some text bold. We can also add lists and bullet points to our metadata. Let's add a list of teams that are the target audience for finance data. Another editing option is to add hyperlinks. So we specify the text and give the URL, and the hyperlink is all set. So now when we go back into Finance Data Card, we can see the new tab, Target Audience. Also, we see the text editing with list and the hyperlink. That's all for this feature. Thank you for watching. Hi everyone, my name is Anna and I'm a product expert for SAC. Today I want to go over the new catalog filtering experience and show a demo of the feature. The updates to the filtering experience include ability for the system to remember each user's applied sort and filters. URL is now updated with the filter parameters. The number of assets under each filter member is highlighted in the filter panel. And also cascading filters are added. Filter members are dynamically updated based on the filters each user selects. So with this feature, customers get benefits like enhanced user experience, as system remembers selection and user doesn't have to set it all again, and improved ability to get to desired content faster by showing only relevant filters based on the user selection. Now let's see the improved catalog filtering in action. Let's open SAC Catalog and open the filter panel. You can see the numbers to the side of each filter member that represent the number of assets. If you look at the business area filter, you can see that sales has 4 assets and all other areas have 1 asset each. So now let's filter on Europe. We can see that the number of assets in the sales business area decreased from 4 to 2. Filter members are dynamically updated based on filters we select. Now let's try leaving the catalog page and then coming back to it. All the filters were remembered, and we come back to the catalog page as we left it, with the Europe filter. Another update is for the URLs. You can see that when we first enter catalog, the URL just leads to catalog. But when we select a filter, the URL gets updated with filter parameters. That's all for this feature. Thank you for watching.
Hello everyone, my name is Jietin. Here I would like to introduce the new features for Analytic Designer with the QRC4 release this year. So first, the new feature I would like to introduce the linked analysis and the linked analysis diagram. With these Q4 releases, you will be able to define the linked analysis within analytical application. Means that you can define the interactions between different widgets, between filter line and widgets, between input controls and also widgets by defining the linked analysis, like you already do so in the story. That means for the simple interaction scenarios within analytical applications, you don't need to write the code anymore. You can directly apply the linked analysis. In addition, we also provide a linked analysis diagram that will enable you to get an overview about different relations, linked analysis between different widgets. Like you can see this example, you get an overview about field line, chart, table, and maybe also input control, how they related to each other. And from this diagram, you will be able to see how they are linked together, and you are also able to manage this linked analysis. To get into this linked analysis diagram, you can click on this icon on the toolbar. Once you click it, then you will be able to get this view and to see and also manage your linked analysis within your analytical applications. So with that, and as I already mentioned before, and for the simple interactions, you don't need to write code anymore. Just apply the linked analysis and use the linked analysis diagram to manage the linked analysis and also to view linked analysis. The next new feature we are introducing is refresh active widgets only. So in the build panel for chart and or for also table, we have a data refresh behavior. Here you can select always refresh, refresh active widgets only, or always pause. always refresh means once this widget, this data will always be loaded. Refresh active widgets only means only the active. For the active widgets, for the visible widgets, the data refresh will be triggered. That also means if the widget is not active, not visible, the data refresh will be paused. And then we also have a behavior code for these widgets. The data refresh should be always paused. So in that case, for a scenario, for example, you have different tab strips, and tab strip 2, 3, or 4 are invisible. So in that case, you can set all the widgets within this tab strip to the behavior refresh active widgets only. Once you set to this behavior, means if these widgets are invisible, no data refresh will be triggered. Once the tab strip is clicked and these widgets get invisible, and then the refresh will be triggered. With that, we can very conveniently control which widgets the data should be, the data refresh should be triggered, and also when it should be paused. And with this setting, you save a lot of coding effort. You don't need to write codes anymore, and you can also configure, use this setting to configure to automatically refresh the invisible widgets. Okay, so that's also a performance features that we are providing with the QRC, this QRC for releases, and using these settings, you can much more convenient to control your pause refresh behavior. The next new feature is the integration with planning, and here we also two major features. One is we are supporting planning area using script API. Means we provide script APIs, copy public version to the private versions, and also set user input considering and integrating with the planning areas. And the second feature is that with a calendar task, now we provide a script API. Can user submit, can user decline, can user approve, can user reject to verify if you as end user can really submit, decline a calendar task for the assignee user roles. So with that, we will have much concrete and exact control about the user and the calendar tasks. The last feature we are also deliver with the Q4 QRC releases is a script API to get the data source information API. So with this API, you will be able to retrieve the SAC model behind your chart or table, and in case if it's a BW data sources, BW live connections, you can also retrieve the BW query name and also display this data source information, data model information, BW query information in your analytical app. Now I would like to go to the demo to show you how this new feature are working and look like. And the first you see in analytical app design time. So let me first close this design area. So we see with this analytical app, we have two tab strip, and within this two tab strip, and also have the input control, and also have the table and also the chart. And input control, you already know that we delivered with the Q3 QRC releases. Then you will be able to find input control also within the analytical app. And now in the Q4 QRC releases, you are also able to define the linked analysis. Just go to the chart, use these menus, and you will be able to see actually this linked analysis menu. Click on that, you will get into the settings. You can very easily, conveniently define, so how is the linked analysis for this chart, unit price by material. And we see that this chart is already defined linked analysis, and this chart is interacts with the chart price by vendors. Basically this chart that's parallel to that. So that's the widgets. So interaction we applied to the chart price by vendor, and we also have the behavior filter on chart point selection. So with that one is very convenient that you go to the chart and then you go to the linked analysis and also define the linked analysis settings that I mentioned how you define in the story, and now you can also how you define in the analytical app, and you can very easily to define the interaction between different widgets. Now you can also, in addition, we also provide a diagram view. You can get into the diagram view, and now we will be able to see this chart. Which other widgets are interact with this chart price by material, it's interact with the chart price by vendor, and also interact with the filter line and with input control. Here you have a clearly overview about which widgets are with which widgets are interacting. So now from this diagram, you will be also able to manage this linked analysis. For example, I can go to the manage linked analysis view, and we see I can also delete one and also add a new source widget, and also delete the target widget, add another source widget. And we can also have the additional setting filter on data point selection. So out of this diagram, you will be able to maintain your linked analysis. And then what I also can do is that I right mouse click on that. I can remove this link, for example. And I can also go to the overview, switch to the overview. So let's switch to the overview. So once I switch to the overview, we see all of this linked analysis behavior for all my applications. So you also see that in the drop-down boxes is currently on the overview. You see all your chart and all your table, how they are interacting with each other. And once you want to go to more details, for example, to see the input control product, and then you click on it, and then you see which other widgets are interacting with the input control, with this input control. So with drop-down boxes, you can switch between overview and also more detailed view. As I mentioned, you can access the linked analysis view, for example, from here is your canvas. Either for a particular chart, go to the linked analysis diagram view, or you can go to above here in the toolbar, it's a linked analysis icon, and then you can directly get into here and to see the whole overview. So that's the linked analysis functionalities that with the Q4 QRC releases, you will be able to define linked analysis in Analytic Designer, and you will also be able to see this diagram to get an overview about your linked analysis and also maintain the linked analysis out of this diagram view. Okay, then that's the first capability, linked analysis, and then now I would like to go to the refresh active widgets only. I mentioned before, for some invisible tab strips and so on, and this behavior make absolutely sense. So like in my canvas, right, I have basically one financial overview and the production detail. In the production details, and that's the second tab strip is initial is invisible. If I click it, and this chart is getting visually configured. For this chart, for example, and I only want to refresh active widgets only, means once this widget get active, the data load will be triggered. And for this chart, the same, because they are all in the production panel and they are initial, it's actually invisible. That I want to configure the refresh active widgets only, and for this chart is the same. That means also if we have a look at the runtime, the behavior is that once actually at the application initialization, only the visible widgets, the data load will be refreshed. And only if I click on this tab strip, these widgets get visible, and then data refresh for these widgets will be triggered. So in this behavior, I can exactly to retrieve the best initialization event here. So we see for the first pages, chart and the table basically is rendered. For the uninitialization, I only need to render the data for the visible widgets. For the invisible widgets in the second tab strip, if I only click that, and then the data will be refreshed, will be triggered. So click on that, and then here again, we will see the data refresh will be triggered once I click on this tab strip. So that's the behavior of the data refresh only for the active widgets. And so with that, and we can retrieve the best on initialization performance. And also with this configuration, as I mentioned before, and we will be able to save you a lot of coding effort, because before you need to write the whole codes for that. And with the Q4 QRC releases, you only need to configure this behavior. And for the scenario including different tab strip, different panels, I strongly recommend you to combine pulse refresh capability and the loading invisible widgets in the background capability to achieve the best on initialization performance. Okay, then go to the next. Get data source information, especially useful for the generic analysis. And that's a sample application. And with this application, you can cover the scenario like a Lumira generic analysis and also the backswap template, for example. And with this kind of table-based slide size analysis, and usually I want to know, so which kind of data model is behind. So here we provide the script API to enable you to provide this information to the end user. For example, the script API is already used within this analytical app, and then I as end user can exactly see what's the model ID, what is the model name, that's SAC model name. Source name is a BW query name, so I can even know if it's a BW live connection, what is the BW query name. That's exactly the BW query name, PM sales, and the description is a sales analysis. So with that, we can provide the end user the data source information that he is informed about the data source information. He knows which BW query is behind this model. Okay, so that's the script API. With the script API, the application designer can provide this information to the end users. The next, I would like to show you the planning capabilities. We support the planning area. We know the planning area is, we introduced in SAC the planning area because of the performance improvements. We want, if we copy the publication version to the private version, and the planning area is leveraged, that we can save also the performance and faster. So in Analytic Designer, we also use the script API to support this approach, this planning area approach. So we provide the copy public version to the private version in the planning area as a script API, and we provide the set user input API also considering the planning area. So let's have a look at how it works in the runtime. Here is how it works in the runtime. And so first, let's start with the copy version with a planning area. And the planning area will be defined on the model level. And now here we will be able to create, for example, a private version based on the public version. So I give actually a public version actual, and then I copy a public version to a private version. And then now we see version copied is successfully. And then a second, actually the private version has been shown on this table. And I can also copy private to private. That's basically the same behavior. Then now let's move to the copy version if there is no planning area available, but I still use the script API with the planning area. And so for that, for example, I still use actual as a planning version, but for this data source, for this table, there is no planning area currently defined. And now I want to copy with a planning area, then we get some messages, no planning area has been defined here. So that's correct. And then we go to, if we copy the version in an empty planning area, that will also happen, right? Means your defined planning area does not match your criterion. So in that case, we also start with the public version called actual, and we want to copy that. And then we will see also corresponding messages to say the planning area is empty, so we cannot really create the private version based on the planning area. So that's also the correct behavior. And if we also want to set the user input, And if you set the user input outside of your planning area, define the planning area, and then it will be basically also get the corresponding error message. So with these script APIs, we are supporting planning area and enable you to using the script API to copy the public version to the private version within a planning area. If it's not within a planning area, it's a planning area is empty, you will get a corresponding error message. And also with the set user input, also consider the predefined planning area in the model, SAC planning model. Okay, that's a highlight for Analytics Designer. Thank you for your listening. Bye.
Hello everyone. I want to show you the latest innovations for Data Analyzer as well as for BW Live Connection as part of the product update in Q4 2021. Data Analyzer is added to the new site navigation bar in SAC. The new starting page enables the user to start a new analysis from scratch or open an existing insight from the recent files list. In addition, we introduced a styling panel in Data Analyzer in order to enable the user to change the default number format of measures. The changed number format is saved with an insight. On the table for BW Live Connection, we give users the possibility to change the description format of a dimension and switch between short, medium and long text. This feature is available for content creators as well as for content consumers in a story, application and in the Data Analyzer. Last but not least, for BW Live Connection, we give users the possibility to activate or deactivate conditions which are defined in the BW query on the fly. This feature is as well available for content creators as well as for pure content consumers in story, application and in the Data Analyzer. Now let's see how these features look like in SAC. Here you see Data Analyzer is available in the new site navigation bar. The new starting page enables the user to start a new analysis based on a BW Live query or a SAP HANA Live calculation view, or launch Data Analyzer based on any kind of SAC model. These are the recent files, which are the recently open insights. This link indicates where the insight has been saved. You can jump to the folder directly, and in the file repository you can manage your insight. Now let me start and open this insight in order to show you the new styling panel in Data Analyzer. This is the default number format of the query. In the Designer panel, you will now find the styling panel here, and you can change the default scaling factor, for example, to 1000. Show it here in the column. And finally, change the decimal places to 0. If you save this setting as an insight, I choose the existing one and overwrite it. You will see by reopening the insight that the number format has been saved. So now let me show you the two innovations for BW Live Connection as well here in Data Analyzer. For this, I open this query here. This query has conditions defined in the BW query. So given that, here on the context menu, you will find a new menu entry which is called Conditions. These three conditions are defined in the BW query, but none of them is active per default. Now I activate the bestseller region and I see one condition is applied. I want to activate as well the button 3 products, and you see 2 conditions are applied. If I change, for example, the drill down and I remove the product, then I can see that one of the conditions is no longer applied because the corresponding dimension is removed from the drill down. But I can show you that the condition is still active. So as soon as this dimension is added to the drill down again, the condition is applied. Last but not least, let me show you the text presentation feature. For this, I open this query. And I add this dimension to the rows. And you see the default format is showing the description, but only the short description. This is the default setting. So first I change this column to ID. And I want to see the description as a second column. So I go here to the Properties dialog and add this dynamic description column to the table. You see the default is still the short one, but now I can change this here, and automatically this description is changed to the long description. I am done for today. Thank you for your attention.
I want to present a new feature which provides content creators with the ability to display images in table cells where the table widget itself is connected to a BW Live query. This can be done via XXL info objects in the BW backend. These objects act as a container to either store an image by uploading it or creating a reference to an image like a path. The XXL info object needs to be assigned to the individual info object as an XXL attribute. Let's see how the images look like in a table. This table is connected to a BW Live query. Every product group has its own image. In order to enable the images, we simply go to the properties of the dimension and enable the XXL attribute, in our case, the product group image. As we can see, the images will be shown immediately after the selection is made. That's it from my side. Back to you.
Hello. Today I want to introduce the reporting layout. This is a new feature only available in Canvas Stories and which allows you to add a header, a footer, and margins to your fixed page size stories. The reporting layout is automatically created when showing the header or the footer or when adding margins. In this new layout, 3 independent widget containers are created, each one being based on a canvas. Since they are independent, they can be individually customized with different background color, borders, or size. Now, let me show you that in a demo.
Hello everyone, my name is Preeti Mulchandani and I'm part of the SAP Analytics Cloud Product Management team. Today, as part of Q4 QRC updates, I'll be talking about the mobile analytics part. So we have a very exciting news that we are starting to support the Analytics Catalog feature from SAP Analytics Cloud iOS mobile app. So this allows the content discovery via the additional catalog tab that has been now added in iPhone and iPad. As a background, Analytics Catalog is available in your SAP Analytics Cloud tenants, and it not only provides very rich experience for content management, attaching the asset metadata, but also providing easy to consume navigation and discovery of content for end users. Now, since this was available in the web application, the customers also requested to have the similar experience for the mobile apps. So when the mobile users log in from their mobile app, they would find the relevant content in their favorite tab. So now you can see that catalog tab is added in iPhone and iPad. And the basic first release of Q4 QRC, we have added the features to view list of all the published catalogs, open the items or content within catalog, that can be stories or digital boardroom presentations and analytics app, and also search for specific items or sort into different order. So let's get started with the demo. Now I log into SAP Analytics Cloud mobile app on my iPhone. Previously, before the Q4 QRC release, you would see the Home tab, where you see, for example, most recently viewed items. And also, in order to look for other items such as stories, you will go to the Files tab. Now, as part of Q4 QRC, you see the Catalog tab. Here you see all the content that is published from SAC web application, and you can tap on the icon to see specific content. Here, for instance, I select Best Run Home Appliance and tap on it. Here this acts as a group of items and it has multiple different files underneath. So if I click on the three dots, I see 6 different stories attached to it. Tapping on one specific story, such as employee attrition, I see the content of the story as usual, browsing through various charts and other information available. If I want to switch on to a different item in the same folder, I again click on the 3 dots or come back to catalog. I can search for specific item, say for example all the files containing sales in the name or a description, or I can also then sort the catalog items by let's say most viewed instead of recently added, which is a default sort order. These are some of the features added as part of the current release. And one more feature that is possible is through settings. So in the settings, if I go to tab selection, I can change it to default as a catalog tab instead of files or home. So if I log off now and log in again, instead of a home or other default tabs, I would now see catalog as a default tab. So that completes the demo for Q4 release, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.
As part of this release, we've introduced the concept of the planning area. Now, the planning area helps to better define the scope of data that should be included in a private version, be that an explicit private version or an implicit private version created during edit of a public version. Historically, when a user created a private version, either implicitly or explicitly, then all data would be included in that private version. But with the planning area, we have the ability to minimize the amount of data included in the private version. We can enable planning area in the model preferences, and then we can define what bounds the planning area. And that can either be based on data access controls and model privacy, and or based on data locking. In addition to optimizing resource usage on a given customer system, the planning area provides a couple of key benefits for the end user. Firstly, it improves the time it takes for a user to go into edit mode for a public version, especially for larger data sets, and also the time it takes to create an explicit private version. Additionally, however, the planning area provides enhanced input readiness. End users now get visual cues to indicate which cells are editable and are physically blocked from entering data against those cells that are read-only. Several dialogues, including version management and version copy, have been modified to indicate to the end user the scope of data edit associated with the version they're working on. We've made some significant changes to the task by driving dimension, or the wizard, for task creation. Specifically, we've refactored the user experience and changed the step arrangement. We provided sort of a continuous scrolling experience, so as you move through the steps, you can easily scroll back to see what you had in the previous step rather than navigating backward and forward. This can now be scrolled in a continuous interface. We have the ability to now attach a work file as part of the task wizard itself, whereas previously you had to do that in an overarching process. You had to make sure that that work file was attached to the overarching process before you actually utilize the wizard. Now you can add the work file in line. We now support multiple approver rounds as part of the task wizard itself in the creation of the tasks. And also, as part of the UI refactoring initiative, we have much better handling of large dimensions. So if you have a large dimension that acts as the driving dimension, this is easier to work with. So in terms of the task wizard, we've changed the user experience, the flow. One of the key enhancements on the first step now is that you can add a work file. So if I go ahead and find my OPEX, I'll add that as a work file to this process. So I don't have to make sure I add that to the process before I actually run the task wizard. I can now add the work file as part of the creation of the tasks. You'll see that when I click next, I can navigate back and forth quite seamlessly between my steps, and it'll sort of page down. So I'll select my model. In this case, that will be my XPA P&L. And my driving dimension will be the entity. And this is where one of the other enhancements comes in here. So if I just go ahead and select my Americas member and its children, and I navigate to the next step where I want to do the assignment, I of course can assign the assignee. Right? I'll select the person responsible. But the nice part now is that we've integrated multiple reviewer rounds into the task wizard. So if I have to, for each step I want more than one set of reviewers, I can point to different properties and have those reviewers assigned. So I'll go ahead, navigate to my additional settings, where I'll define the name of each task. And if we go ahead and preview the task creation, we'll see that the assignees and the respective reviewers are applied. And again, I can easily scroll back and forth through the various steps to see my overall assignment. If I go ahead and create those tasks, of course they'll generate and appear in the calendar. For new models, we've introduced the concept of the currency variable. And the currency variable simplifies reporting in any number of currencies. So with the currency variable, you now have the ability to define one or more measures that can be flexibly reused to report different currencies. And those measures could either be model-based measures, or they could be story-based measures. And so when a user opens a given report that's reporting or utilizing the currency variable, he or she would be prompted to pick a value for that currency variable. Of course, you set a default in the modeler itself. You can change the currency selection in line in the report. You, of course, have the ability to fix the currency variable value for a given story, and even for a given widget. So, for example, if I have a table, I want a given table to always report British pounds. I could set the table to do that, even while the broader story may allow me to pivot, and I may be reusing the currency variable set for, say, USD or Euro. So to see the currency variable in practice, we can enable the currency variable under the model preferences. In the currency section, you'll see a button if you don't already have it enabled. In my case, it's already enabled. And once enabled, you can define a description for the variable, and you can set a default currency for the variable. In my case, that'll be USD. Once you've configured it in the model preferences, it's also available in the model variable section. If we were to pull that up, we would see the currency variable. And once we've done this, we can of course start using the variable. And we can do that in, for example, conversion measures. So if I pivot over to my conversion measures, you'll see I have a couple of them already. One is my USD equivalent, which is a fixed type. But I get a new drop down in the target currency, and if I look at my currency variable member, you'll see that in the drop down I can now select from variable. And this, if I select it, will make the currency member or the measure dynamic so that I can pivot it at runtime to a given reporting currency. In my story, when I open it up, I get prompted for the currency variable. In my case, I've got it set to British pounds. You'll see that I actually have two of them, two variables. One is the model variable I set up, but I also have a story variable, currency measure that's based on the currency variable. Now, if I wanted to change this, I could change the currency variable to Canadian dollars, for example. You'll see those two measures will recalculate to the CAD equivalent. And if I wanted to convert them, let's say to USD, I could do that, and they would then be equivalent to the USD calculated measure that I have, right? So I'd have three measures that are equivalent. Just to take a look at the story measure that's using the currency variable, if I pull that up, I have a story-based conversion measure. When I pull that up, you'll see that I also have the ability under target currency to select the from variable. And the last thing I want to mention is that you can also tag a given object. So in my case, a table, I could set it to have a fixed value for that currency selection. So I could either use the story variable, or I could set a table variable in this case. So if I wanted to make the conversion measure euro for this table, when I pick that, it's euro, and it'll do that regardless of what I have set as my story variable. So I have my story variable as USD, I could change it to CAD, but that's not going to recalculate the story measures.
Hello, my name is Sofia Muzichko, and I'm the product manager for SAP Analytics Cloud BI. And today I would like to talk to you about what are the recent enhancements we have made for Story in QRC4. And I would like to start us off with the performance optimization tips that we are now introducing to the Story Designer. Story Designer, when creating a new dashboard, has a lot of influence on whether the story will be performant or not. To help facilitate the design process and make sure that the design of the story is adherent with best practices for performance, we will now be surfacing performance optimization tips to the story designer while he's creating the story. Now, as of QRC4, story designers will be notified when there are too many widgets or the added widgets are too complex on the page, and as a result, the performance will be negatively impacted. Story designers will also be notified whenever there have been too many pages added to the story. The story designer will be also notified if they expand an input control where a dimension is either hierarchical or is a high cardinality dimension or dimension that has a lot of dimension members. Story designer will also be prompted to leverage optimized view mode when saving a story. So we're surfacing a lot of these performance tips to make sure the designer makes the best decision for their story, taking into account what is available for what are the best practices for performance. Now, keep in mind that these aren't strict rules. Story designer still has the authority to override and continue on with their set design, or they can listen or pay attention to the performance tips and update the design of their story to make it more performant.
Now keep in mind that the performance tips you will be seeing in this demo will only appear for the designer in edit mode, so these tips will not be visible for the viewer. Now the first tip I would like to show you in action is the performance tip about having too many widgets on a page. Now as I start scrolling down this page, I notice that there is a large number of visualizations, both charts and table, as well as input controls we saw earlier on this page. Now let's imagine I would like to add a new chart. Notice there now appears a performance tip at the top of the page in the header that is available to you via an icon next to the page, and as you hover over, you now see the text. So what you'll notice is the text says that there is now too many widgets available or placed on this page, and it may take a load on performance when the user will be trying to load the page itself. Now let's make a few adjustments so that I can better explain to you the way the rule works. Let's, for example, copy this table for now. And now I will remove the table from the page. Notice our notification has disappeared where it's no longer true, because in this case we removed a table. Now let me make some quick additions into this chart. And let me now duplicate this chart. Notice there is now no rule or no notification for the designer, because we've made not only a change in the number of widgets, but we've also removed a table, which is a heavier processing widget, meaning it may take a little bit longer performance-wise to load than, for example, a chart. So the rule is smart that way, where it accounts not only for the number of widgets on the page, but also for the types of widgets placed on the page. Now, for example, if we now duplicate the chart again, you see the rule has now appeared at the top, and we've crossed that threshold again. Let's remove our list. Now, I already have a large number of pages in the story, but let's try and add a new page. I want to add a new responsive page, and maybe we'll place our table previously onto this page. Now notice, as I now attempt to add a new page into the story, I now see a notification icon next to the Add button. As I hover over it, it lets me know that there's now too many pages in the story, and if I add any more, it may take a toll on performance. Now notice that these tips aren't invasive, meaning the story designer can still make the judgment call and add a new page or an extra widget, but they will do so now knowingly that it may take a toll on performance, and it will be up to their discretion whether they are willing to make that sacrifice, maybe in favor of a design change. Now I would like to also show you one other improvement that we've made. And to do that, I will add an input control now onto this page. As the input control has been added, and select order number. Let's select all members. What you'll notice now is a familiar notification icon. As I hover over, the performance tip lets me know that we've now added an expanded input control for a high cardinality dimension. Now what that means is that this dimension has a large number of dimension members, and this means that it has over 100 dimension members, or potentially it is a hierarchical dimension with many dimension members. In order to improve the performance on story, the best decision would be for a designer to keep the input control collapsed for those dimensions that are either hierarchical or have a large number of dimension members. Now you see, as we keep it now collapsed, we no longer see the notification. Now finally, as I now go ahead to save the story, notice we've now surfaced and made it easier to discover an option to enable an optimized view mode. As we hover over next to the information icon, it lets us know that new optimized mode actually offers a number of performance as well as usability improvements once on the story for view time. Now to enable it, it is as easy as clicking on this icon, and you see now that we have a checkbox after we've selected it, and we can now hit save.
Next, I would like to talk to you about optimized view mode enhancements that we have been making. You may be already familiar with optimized view mode that we've released earlier in the year and that you've just seen in the demo about the performance tips. Now, the optimized view mode makes sure that your story is leveraging the latest performance optimizations we have been making on your behalf in the backend, as well as taking advantage of the latest UI enhancements, such as improved filtering and other experiences. We have added on or extended the functionality that is supported with optimized view mode with the following. The optimized view mode now supports viewing bookmarks that have been created previously. We now support Edge and Safari browsers, wildcard searches for input controls, as well as public URL APIs. We also support BW custom grouping that is available in view mode. We support story content translation, search to insight launch from the story, and other additional functionality supported now with optimized view mode in QRC4. To learn more about this, please follow the link to the Roadmap Explorer, where there's more detail you can find about what are the latest enhancements we have made with optimized view mode in QRC4. Now, another exciting enhancement we have made with QRC4 is now an ability for the story designer to define a default page or tab navigation on a per story basis. As you may know, earlier this year, we've introduced a new and improved view time toolbar, a simplified version of a toolbar that helps the end viewer to concentrate on what's really important, content, and only surfaces the most commonly used actions. As part of that enhancement, we have updated our ability to navigate across pages with now a tab navigation. We've heard your feedback that you would like to set the default navigation menu on a per story basis. The story designer can now go into story details and choose a preferred or a new default navigation, whether that's a drop-down list or a tab navigation on a per story basis. This new feature or enhancement for the story will override the existing default set by the system administrator. Now allow me to show you how one would change the default navigation setting for a story. Now you can notice now that we are currently in view mode of a particular story. The default navigation setting for this tenant is a dropdown, which you can see on our toolbar. If I now go into the edit mode as a story designer, I can now choose to override these settings via the story details menu. If we go under file into story details and scroll down, you will notice now a new option on a per story basis where I can override default settings for page navigation. As you hover over, it lets you know that whenever user opens a story, if the setting is enabled, it will override the default setting navigation defined by the system administrator. As we enable it, we can now choose the default navigation for this story. And it can either be the tab bar or the old way or the drop-down, which we currently have. Let's change our default to the tab bar for the story. Now that we've changed our default settings and saved our story, let's go into view mode. Notice now, by default, because we've changed the default settings, we are now seeing the page navigation and not the drop-down menu that we saw earlier. Another exciting enhancement we have introduced in QRC4 is the ability to add a dynamic text for the team or a member of the team who created the story. Now, as you know, or it may be relevant for your case as well, there is a need to identify or differentiate trusted content, such as analytic stories, from those created by other business users. To facilitate that scenario, we are now allowing you to add a dynamic text that will indicate whether the story has been created by a member of a trusted team or not. Story Designer can now create a dynamic text, a functionality that you're probably already familiar with, for a team name. When a story has been created by a member of the team, the dynamic text will reflect the name of the team. Notice that it is a team name and not a member name. So in this case, there can be multiple authors from the same team who can contribute to the story, and you will see the story is verified, indicated by the same team name. However, if the story has been saved as a copy or edited by somebody outside of the trusted team set up in SAP Analytics Cloud, the text of the dynamic text will update to reflect that the story has been changed by somebody outside of the trusted team. This enhancement will help facilitate trust into the content created in SAP Analytics Cloud and help better differentiate authored content by a trusted group as opposed to the self-service user. Now, please allow me to show you how to add a team signature onto your story in SAP Analytics Cloud. I'm going to use the story we were looking at earlier, and I would now, you can see in the lane title here, I have already entered text authored by, and now I will add a dynamic text. So you see a familiar menu already where you can choose what kind of dynamic text you would like to add. As you scroll down now on the left-hand side panel, you will now see a new entry called Team Signature. The team signature over here will list out all the team names that a said user is part of. In this case, I'm part of the HR team, so I'm authorized to add a team signature for my team. You can see now the HR team has been added to my story. As we're saving our story, this token will remain relevant in view mode for all other users. Now, let me show you what will happen if I am changing a story that it has been authored by a team that I'm not part of. In this case, you can see that at the top of the lane here, there's a signature by a different team. In this case, the story has been authorized by a corporate BI team. Given that I'm not part of the team, the indication or the dynamic text token will change if I edit or save a copy of the story. Let's try editing the story. As I enter the edit mode, notice the dynamic text has been updated accordingly. You can see that the dynamic text has updated to say that I am not part of the corporate BI team, and the story is no longer modified, or the story is no longer certified by the member team. If I now save a copy of the story, so you can see that this is now a copy of my own story, and I still cannot modify the given dynamic text. So it no longer is authorized by the corporate BI. However, if we navigate back to the original story and keep our view mode on, you will notice that the dynamic text will reflect the original team name. Because we have not modified the original story, we only saved a copy. This way, other viewers can clearly differentiate between the main story created by the top corporate BI team or other stories that are copies of the said main story. And finally, I would also like to mention that we have made an enhancement to the creation process of measure-based calculated dimensions. A story designer, when creating a measure-based calculated dimension, can now leverage existing story and page filters as their filter context for when creating the calculation. This will help reduce any errors by leveraging existing story and page filters as opposed to having to create duplicate ones as part of your calculation. Now, this enhancement is now supported for live SAP HANA, BW, and acquired data models. Now let's take a look of where you can find those new settings now. As you open the filter panel, let's create a new calculated dimension. In this case, we want to choose a measure-based dimension. Notice the rest of the menu remains unchanged. However, we now have a new entry for the filter context, where we can take into account story and page filters already created. Notice we have a sales manager filter on a story basis and some other page filters available as well. As we expand the menu, we can see that we can add existing filters such as the sales manager on a story level, as well as a breakdown of a page filter. In this case, in an overview, we have a region and a product filter. You can see those can be easily added now into the calculation editor for measure-based calculated dimensions.
Welcome to the SAP Analytics Cloud User Collaboration Services. My name is Karthik, and I'm working as one of the product managers for SAP Analytics Cloud, and I would be walking you through with the latest enhancements on the 2021 Q4 QRC on the User Collaboration Services. The first enhancement I would like to share with you is one of the most asked by many customers in the scheduling publications, recurrence workflow. In addition to the already existing recurrence patterns like hourly, daily, and weekly, with 2021 Q4 QRC, we are introducing monthly recurrence for scheduling publications. With this, you can schedule your publications on a monthly basis on a defined date of the month. An example would be like you can schedule like every 6th day or a date of the month with a defined end date as well as with a recurrence pattern. You can choose this recurrence pattern to decide in how many months once this recurrence needs to execute. Use cases like once in a quarter can be easily achieved on a specific date of the month. Let me take you to the sneak peek into the product demo. To access scheduling publications, you can open the story and go to the File menu option and select Scheduling Publications. Select Add Recurrence, and then in the drop-down menu for Recurrence Pattern, you would find the option called Month. Select Month. In the new view options, you can define like in how many months often you want this recurrence pattern to run. Then you can define a date on which this recurrence needs to run. Let me also show you how an edge case could look like. In case if you end up choosing a date which is not available in any of the other month, like if you happen to choose the recurrence to run on every 31st day of the month, then in such a case, the system would smartly identify and run the recurrence on the last day of that month. In our example, the recurrence pattern defined for 31st of October as the first occurrence would be run on November 30th on the second recurrence month. Let us see for our current schedule as I create now. Once the schedule is created, you can find it under the calendar setting when the schedule is going to run. As you see, the next occurrence in November would be run on 30th, and in February 2022, the last day of the month, which is 28th of the month, would be run. Let me move on from here to introduce you to the second exciting enhancement on scheduling publications. Until now, the publication email's message body was with default text format with no formatting options available. With 2021 Q4 QRC, we are introducing rich text formatting options to your publication emails so that your schedule owner can draft emails with some of the most widely used formatting options. You can highlight your text with bold or italicize or underline strike through with different colors, the font size, and as well as the different font options available. As these mails are sent to important stakeholders in an organization, we also understood a few more formatting options would be helpful to get started, like bullet points or enumeration and indentation related options to format your email. You can even add hyperlinks within your context of email, especially helpful if you want to add for more reference or even an attachment as a link stored in your cloud storage. As well, if you already had formatted text in an external document, you can as well copy paste directly into the message body. Let us see these options within SAP Analytics Cloud scheduling publications with workflow, how it looks like and can be made to use. You can use the formatting toolbar options available right above the message window. Let me do a few of them and show you how it looks like here. I am selecting a few text elements and making them bold and adding some color and some enumeration and adding a hyperlink to the content. The same content in formatted form would be sent to the recipient over an email as we see here. The third enhancement I would like to share with you is for the message delivery service for SAP Analytics Cloud for the custom SMTP server. We introduced custom SMTP server setup feature in 2020 Q4, and with this new enhancement, your SAP Analytics Cloud administrator can add a new field called header sender address. This field helps administrators send emails to their recipients within their organization with this new email field defined in the email address as the header sender address. Your administrator can make use of the envelope sender address mainly for configuring the custom SMTP server setup with SAP Analytics Cloud and the header sender address for showing your recipients about the information on who sent the email in the from email field. You may or may not show a valid email ID defined, and it's up to the customers to decide as there is no separate validation done for this. Let us see this configuration setting within SAP Analytics Cloud. To configure custom SMTP server setup, the user would typically have administrative rights. The user needs to go under SAP Analytics Cloud's application menu, select System and then Administration. Then navigate to the Notifications tab, and then you can find under section Email Server Configuration. You would find the new field header sender address right here. Once you input an email field here, you can click the button Check Configuration. As you see here, I already have the field inputted. So let me make some changes so that I can get an email and show you as well with the new changes as applicable. As you see, I received the email for successful setup, and you would also find that the header for this email displays the header sender address as defined newly. Remember, this enhancement is not just for your publication emails received, but any email which your tenant is configured for SAP Analytics Cloud's message delivery services. That's it from my side. Thank you for going through the new enhancements under the user collaboration services for SAP Analytics Cloud.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna and I'm a product expert for SAC. Today I will be going over SAC's Workspace feature and show a quick demo of it. SAC Workspaces are virtual workspaces that customers can set up in their tenants to mimic their organizational setup. Workspaces enables administrators to partition the existing file repository into various chunks and provide the ability to delegate content administration to others. The main benefits of SAC's Workspaces feature are: number one, Workspaces feature provides a better way to organize your files and folders in tenants with large deployments. Number two, it allows for content segregation and restricts access to content not intended for mass sharing. It restricts content sharing between partition groups. And number three, it allows for content administration within partition groups, so Workspace administrator rights can be assigned. Now let me show you what Workspaces feature looks like within our SAC tenant. Tenant Administrator has access to the new Workspace Management tab in SAC sidebar that allows them to access Workspace Management page. Here they can add, delete, and manage all the workspaces in a tenant. As you can see, we've created several workspaces to partition our tenant into different departments. We have one for the business teams, development teams, HR, and management. If you click on one of the workspaces, you get to the workspace creation page. Here you can customize your general settings, add and remove teams, and assign workspace administrators to manage the workspace content. Let's assign some teams to this workspace. We'll add the marketing and sales teams. Tenant Administrator can also assign a workspace administrator. This person doesn't have to be a workspace member. So let's add Karen as a workspace administrator. Now let's see how SAC Workspace feature looks like for Karen. When you go into Files and you go into the System view, you can see the workspace you've been assigned as an administrator of. You can access, organize, delete, and share all the content that the users have created in the workspace. So now Karen can administer the files in the workspace without needing to rely on administrator. Now let's log in as a content creator. This is an account of a regular user who is a member of a workspace. You can't see any workspace management functionality here. However, they can see the workspace as an item in the file repository. If you click on it, you can see all the content that they created within the workspace or that was shared with them. The workspace member can only share content with other workspace members. So now let's create a story as a content creator who is a member of the business workspace. When you create new content, you are prompted to create it in My Files or in the workspace that you are a member of. Let's select Business to create a story in the business workspace. After we created a story, we might want to share it with other users. When you create content in the workspace, you can only share it with other members of the workspace. So now we can see the list of available users and teams that we can share our story with. That's it for the demo. Thank you for watching.
Okay, so that was a lot. Hopefully the demos have shown you how you can leverage the latest features in SAP Analytics Cloud within your organization. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all things SAP Analytics Cloud. We're also really excited about what's coming in 2022, and we hope to see you in the new year with new updates for SAP Analytics Cloud. Thanks again, and see you next time.